So let's get started then right away with this main topic tonight, which is, of course, ScapeCon 3. I myself and a few of us went to ScapeCon last year, had a fun time, we talked about it, but we're going to go a little bit in depth about how this all got started with Mike, as well as what we are going to be looking forward to for ScapeCon 3 this year. So how about we just start with that first? Mike, tell us a little bit about ScapeCon. Here, I'm just going to bring this up real quick on the screen. So this is the initial announcement as ScapeCon 3 if you're watching this on YouTube, and of course all links will be in the description below when it comes to information on ScapeCon if you're watching this on YouTube on the Tales of Al YouTube page. But ScapeCon 3, August 9 through 13th 2023 in Indianapolis, Indiana. And of course this is just basically as I like to call it, the Heroscape Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl of Heroscape, really. And it is that intense. But how about we backtrack a little bit? And Mike, just tell us a little bit how you started this whole thing.
Yeah, so as some people may know, I helped out, and I should really put this in quotation marks because I didn't understand how little I actually did until I started running ScapeCon. So I helped out at Gen Con, but it was really Ken was much more in charge, as well as a couple other guys, Lone Wolf and Bo, Raider 30 and Lone Wolf were really, the three of them were really running it, and I helped, but again, I helped with some events, and I helped with maps. I picked the pool the last couple of years that we ran Gen Con events, and essentially COVID hit. Obviously nothing happened in 2020, and then COVID was still a problem. I mean, obviously, it's still around now, but in 2021 Gen Con, Ken probably remembers this as well. Like, Gen Con was super weird about, like, we might allow events, we might not, we might like have limited, I think it was like limited space, or like we might not even allow people to play games in person, right? Like for 2021.
Yeah, they wouldn't tell us how much space we could have. It was just bad. It was just, I mean, and in their defense, COVID was a thing that everybody's still trying to figure out.
Right.
Yes.
So it was like, if I remember correctly, it was end of March or beginning of April when, like, we, and again, for whatever input I had, but like we had to make the call, right, of like, are we going to run events in Gen Con in September when we don't know how many people we can have there? We know nothing about it. Gen Con won't give any like information, concrete information about what's going to happen. So we decided to cancel events, and then like the next day my dad, we were out running errands, and he just like, it just came to him, he was like, why don't we just do our own thing, why don't we just like try to recreate like the events experience, but let's kind of take the best of both worlds, and let's model this after not just Gen Con events, but we've been to a lot of different gaming conventions, a lot of different gaming tournaments over our lives, over the last 10-15 years. So like Dice Tower Con, which is now Dice Tower East, is a great example of a super laid back community like vibe, and everything's right there in one place. You're in a hotel gaming. It was just kind of like, well, even stuff as small as at Dice Tower East, they have free water towers, right, with cups there for you to take. Like, even that was like instantly like, we got to have that, so it was just like learning from all our different experiences, trying to put that together into a single place where it's like you can play Heroscape, but you're also hanging out with everybody. Everything's in one place. You don't have to get in your car at all, which you didn't have to do at Gen Con if you paid for a downtown hotel, which was a couple $100 a night. it's just, let's try to get that whole experience with reasonable rooms, and let's just do it in one place. We didn't necessarily have to do first of all, we had to do an Indy. I guess, again, we didn't have to, but it's just like Walt's there with the terrain. And as an organizer, it's like when everything else can go wrong, I know one thing for sure every year is that Walt will be there with the terrain. Like that, he has never failed, and he's just amazing for doing that. So knowing that, like, yeah, I've got 32 maps all set already, like, yeah, we've got to build them, but the terrain's there, so we don't have to cart the terrain in our car from Connecticut. So just like stuff like that, and it's a central location. People are used to going there. So Indy was pretty much the place. And then it came down to, let's contact hotels, which my dad did all that. He did a lot of work, especially that first year, reaching out to a lot of hotels, and a lot of them just ghosted, didn't respond. And basically there were two main ways you could get the space, or really three main ways, but really two. One, you could just pay for space at a hotel. Second, and more common, was you had to guarantee a minimum number of rooms, which we didn't want to do because we had no idea how many people would come, and we didn't want to try to enforce like, hey, everybody can only put 2 in a room or something, like if you want to jam four or more people in a room, go for it. If you want to stay in Airbnb somewhere else, go for it. Again, that's just how we did it. And the one where we're doing it now, the location is great and terrible. It's great because it's right by the airport, which is super convenient, free shuttle from the airport. That's amazing, right? Terrible is there's no food options in the area. So if you want food, it's like this wasn't downtown, but the benefit of this over the downtown is you weren't paying a couple $100 a night plus $20 a night for parking at whatever hotel. So it's just like all these had to weigh, and every option was going to cost money. It's just, so we decided that the best bang for our buck was to run it at this hotel because it's close to the airport, and we worked out a deal where it's like we get the ballroom for free as long as we just buy enough food. And especially now we're buying more than enough food, and they're catering food. The food's very good. So that's how it started, and that's why, because there were some complaints after the first year from one person in particular about the fact that, the food was a requirement. It's just like, but that's how we've rented the space, is that's how we pay the hotel, and that's how we get the ballroom for free. And this year we're getting both of their meeting rooms. They only have this one ballroom plus the room we're eating in, plus these 2 meeting rooms, and we've got the 2 meeting rooms for free as well this year. So we're literally taking over the hotel for like 5 days, which is awesome. So yeah, I mean that's the short story of how ScapeCon got started. And then really after that first year, just like the overwhelming response was, other than like maybe a couple people, like the overwhelming response was like, this is just so much more relaxed and such a different environment than Gen Con. And if you really look at like most events, like for other games, I can't think of a single game that has their big event at there's very few that have their big event at Gen Con. That's just not really a huge thing. Most games, like all the big games have their own events, right? And I know we're not a big game, and I know we're not a huge community. And I know for some people they would prefer to still be at Gen Con, but just for such a large part of the community, are like Heroscape only people, or like Heroscape primarily. And even like, I mean, DeRoche, Gordon was like, I like this so much more than Gen Con, even though he would go play X-Wing at Gen Con. He was like, yeah, I'm good not doing that. I'd rather do this. And so like when somebody like that is saying like, I'd rather do this, it's like, okay, like, we kind of have something here. So after that, it was just basically like, we've run another one since. It went well. It went better than the first. I think there was a misunderstanding when I posted an initial post that wasn't as positive as it could have been about like what we were changing for the next year. But like you have to understand that was in the context of me thinking ScapeCon 1 was great, but all these things are going to be better, and there's going to be 0 issues. And then when there were issues, most of which were out of my control and unforeseeable, basically, some involving hotel or whatever. That's the context of that. It wasn't that ScapeCon 2 was bad or like rough or anything. It was just like, okay, some things, and especially, you know, a couple things that like I thought were going to be ironed out and all set weren't then, you know, but overall it's still like for 95% of the attendees, they didn't know about any of it. So like, and that's great. That's how it should be. You know, the attendees should just have fun, you know, and I'm, you know, so that's the long story short, and that's how we got here.